Welcome, Lumineers and fans of the happiest card game on Earth. My name's John T. You've just been put in the inkwell, along with a pile of cards to start the year off as we head into set 3. Had a little bit of break over the festive period, hasn't been completely purposeful, but the stuff, life gets in the way. And I was just looking at some of the recent week's reveals and realised that I hadn't actually covered any on a video since the original 3 as part of the set announcement. Obviously, we cover all the reveals every single week on our live stream, Monday nights, This Week in Ink, where me and Brandon look over the news of the last 7 days. But a lot of people aren't able to watch that, so I'm still making sure that I cover all of the cards in these roundup videos that my channel is kind of known for. So we're going to catch up and get up to speed so that as we approach the full spoiler season of set 3, which is going to be coming in the next week or two, I imagine, we are up to date. So first of all, we have a 2-costed inkable action song in Ruby. I've got a dream. Ready chosen character of yours at a location. They can't quest for the rest of this turn. Gain lore equal to that location's lore. So this is Fan the Flames, but with a caveat, the bonus being that you gain some lore from it as well. Kind of nice to see an action just generate lore. Could be the lore you need to win the game. So far we've seen 2 locations, one of which does have lore on it, so it isn't a given that your location's going to have lore. But otherwise, Fan the Flames doesn't see that much play. LeFou seems a little bit of play, who has this ability built onto his entering play ability. But otherwise, I'm probably not sure this one's going to go, unless we get some locations with like 3 lore on them, and this can basically just win you the game outright. We'll see. Next up, a 6-costed uninkable 3/6 for 2 lore in Amethyst, Mama Udi, Voice of Wisdom. She's a Dreamborn ally sorcerer with the ability Listen to Your Mama. Now, whenever this character quests, you may move up to 2 damage counters from chosen character to chosen opposing character. Just an uncommon card here, but an interesting ability. First time we've really seen damage counters move around from one character to another. We have got the beast that sort of soaks them up from elsewhere. Whether or not she goes with him, I don't think so. But I do think maybe she goes alongside Teeth and Ambitions if you do some damage to a 1/3, perhaps to get rid of an opponent's issue. On the next turn, she can quest and remove that 2 damage and sort of stack it up somewhere else. It's a few hoops to jump through, and you are looking at an uncommon here, but I'm not sure she'll see a ton of play just because of that uninkability and maybe slightly expensive costs. You want to be doing a lot more on 6. If her ability did it on entering play as well, then I could definitely see it seeing more play, but as it stands, I think there's a few too many hoops to jump through to really see any value out of her. Next up, a 3-costed inkable 3/1 for 2 lore in Sapphire, Wendy Darling, Authority on Peter Pan. She's a Storyborn hero with ward and support, and for some reason she's a super rare. I'm either missing something or we don't know what the full set contains to make this good, but at the moment this is a $1 super rare. I just don't get it. A 5-costed inkable 4/5 for 1 lore in Steel, Eeyore, Overstuffed Donkey. He has Resist 1, a Storyborn ally at common rarity. Bit of a draft bomb this one, I think. I think if you get this guy down, he's just going to be very difficult to remove. Nice stats means he's going to hit into stuff and also just quest comfortably without fear of retaliation, but outside draft I'm not sure he finds a spot in a deck. Next up, a 2-costed inkable 1/3 for 1 lore in Emerald, Ursula Deceiver, a Storyborn villain sorcerer with the ability You'll Never Even Miss It. When you play this character, chosen opponent reveals their hand and discards a song card of your choice. This is an uncommon card, but is absolutely a goat. I can imagine this very much finding a spot in Emerald Steel decks, Emerald Sapphire decks, Emerald Amber decks, everything basically that plays Emerald. Even if you're not running a discard package, I think this finds space. I think it's going to be a very hot card and will fit into a lot of decks. At the end of the day, this is going to get rid of the Grab Your Swords. It's going to get rid of the Be Prepared that your opponent has in their hand a little bit later in the game, but even early on it's going to get rid of some of that steel removal that's sort of, really sort of messing up a lot of decks. I just think this is a very playable card. It's not an awful stat line for a 2-cost and has a very strong ability on play, and does lean into discard because specifically it's worded that the opponent discards the card card despite you choosing it, and therefore will trigger things like Prince John. I think this is a very good card, very playable card, goes in a lot of decks, 10 out of 10. Next up, a 2-costed uninkable 3/1 for 1 lore, Stitch Little Rocket, a Ruby Dreamborn hero alien with Rush. This comes down on turn 2 and kills anything that's on the board exerted, basically, but other than that, I don't necessarily know if this is really good. I guess it's, you know, it's a removal spell that can hang around and gain a lore late game if you need it to. But, you know, it's uninkable. It may well be a little bit dead in your hand at some times. I do think that locations are going to make us shift to slightly more of a challenging meta at the as in cards going into each other, not challenging as in difficult. At the moment, you can very easily win games without challenging at all, and I think they. Not sure that's really where the game wants to be. I think cards smacking into other cards is really where they want to sit. So cards like this may well become more prevalent if that is a shift that we see. A 3-costed inkable action Song in Amber, heal what has been hurt. Remove up to 3 damage from chosen character, draw a card, a common rarity. This is Rapunzel's enter play ability on an action, a singable action no less, and it does replace itself, but even still, unless you're really leaning into healing, I'm not too sure whether this sees much play. Honestly, even a really healing heavy deck, I still don't necessarily know whether this finds a slot. It is inkable, but honestly, even in draft, I think this is going to be one of the last few things you take, even with that draw a card caveat on it there. Another one that kind of falls into the same kind of boat here, a 2-costed inkable action in Sapphire Distract. Chosen character gets -2 strength this turn, draw a card. I think if there's one thing a card can do in the game that's weaker than anything else, it is give a character less strength. Out of all the things that you could possibly do, bumping up numbers, dropping down numbers, I genuinely think a removal of strength is probably the weakest one. This is draft chaff if nothing else. A 2-costed inkable item in Amethyst, the Sorcerer's Hat, with incredible energy. You can exert it and pay 1 ink to name a card, reveal the top card of your deck. If it is the named card, put that card into your hand, otherwise put it on the top of your deck. A rare card here with a lot of promise, but I don't think it quite hits the mark. Obviously, you can play a very sort of typal heavy deck. You know, we're going to be looking at Dalmatian puppies in a moment that you can run 99 copies of, but also, you know, there's quite a few different Stitches now you could maybe run with this, or something like that. The name part of the card is just the big name at the top. So Stitch, for instance, you could exert this, pay an ink, and name Stitch, and whether you turn over a new dog or a surfer, you will be able to put it into your hand. And that's the real problem with this card. I think there's a few hoops to jump through here, either having a very loaded deck with 1 or 2 characters, or having the ability to look at the top of your deck before using this item's ability, something like Ursula's Cauldron or Yzma or a few others that can do it. I feel like that's quite a few hoops to jump through just to basically draw a card. It's actually a little worse than draw a card, because it's draw a card that your opponent now knows, because you obviously have to reveal it. So really, I would like to have seen this item cost a little more perhaps, and actually put the card into play. I still think there is enough caveats there to to make this sort of not be completely broken. And if this was a 4-costed item, I don't think there's any real problem with on turn 5 being able to play out a larger creature early, because you know that they're on the top of your deck. It's very telegraphed, and I think there are ways to deal with it. But as it stands, definitely want to keep an eye on. Maybe somebody less smooth-brained than me can figure out how to break it, but as it stands, I just don't feel like you're getting the value out of all of the steps you have to take. Next up, a 5-costed inkable 4/4 for 2 lore in Ruby, Jim Hawkins, Space Traveler. He's a Storyborn hero with This Is It. When you play this character, you may play a location with cost 4 or less for free, and take the helm. Whenever you play a location, this character may move there for free. This is a legendary card, our first and only legendary that we've seen from set 3 so far, and honestly, this does feel like a legendary. Not terribly statted for the cost, it's inkable, and it has a couple of really interesting abilities. Obviously, whether this card is playable lives or dies on the fact of how strong locations are, but honestly, it's the new thing of the set. There's looks like going to be few in each color. I'd be surprised if there weren't at least a few that you're going to see value off of playing here. At the end of the day, you're playing down a 5-costed character and getting 9 ink worth of value. Unless all locations are awful, I just feel like this is a bit of a win. Solid card. Nice to see Ruby doing something a bit different as well. Exciting to see whether this builds a location deck or just finds a home in a more traditional Ruby control build with the sort of bonus of 1 or 2 locations. Next up, we had 3 cards that I kind of feel like I spoiled. I managed to find the images of the starter decks on somewhere, but they were out there unofficially. I didn't cheat. And then later that day, they showed them off nicer on a live stream. So this is what we're looking at now, the nice versions, not the pixelated crap that I found. First of all, we have a 5-costed uninkable 3/5 for 1 Scrooge McDuck, richest duck in the world, Storyborn hero with I'm Coming Home. I'm going home. During your turn, this character gains evasive, and I didn't get rich by being stupid. During your turn, whenever this character banishes another character in a challenge, you may play an item for free. So this is evasive counter with item shenanigans as well. The item deck is desperately trying to find a spot in the meta. It did really well for a week or two and then kind of tottled off. Whether or not this finds a home in it, I'm not sure. 5-costed uninkable is a little pricey, I feel here. Maybe if this had 2 lore, so it could, quest if it didn't have to challenge. I'm not sure. I feel like a lot of these cards that come in these starter decks kind of show off the game relatively well. They show off what cards are capable of, but when it comes down to it, they don't necessarily actually see play in decks. The only one I can really think of recently is the Queen from the Amber Sapphire deck of set 2. Next up, a 5-costed inkable 4/4 for 2. Moana, Born Leader, a Floodborn hero princess captain with shift 3, and welcome to my boat. Whenever this character quests while at a location, ready all other characters here. They can't quest for the rest of this turn. So similar to Moana of Montanui from set 1 in the fact that she's able to ready things up and could well be playable again if we see some strong characters. She definitely sort of fits in that Jim Hawkins deck, I feel, because again she cares about locations. So Ruby locations is definitely something I'm excited to see, and also a smaller Moana that she's able to shift onto. I'm very excited to see that as well. Currently there isn't really one that is making this one Floodborn on curve, but I'm sure we're going to get a little 1 or 2 drop vanilla that will fill that slot later on. And also Pongo, a 3-costed inkable 3/2 for 1 lore Pongo Determined Father, Storyborn hero with Twilight Bark. Once per turn, you may pay 2 to reveal the top card of your deck. If it's a character card, you can put it into your hand, otherwise put it on the bottom of your deck. This is a super rare card. Interesting ability is kind of like he's doing an impression of Mufasa, and that 2 on the butt is probably going to be the thing that makes this one not see as much play as it maybe should. It's not an awful ability, especially if you're playing a character-heavy deck that Amber very much wants to do. But again, you're revealing a card and putting it into your hand. At least the ability isn't tied to Pongo questing or challenging, so he can just kind of sit down there and wait to eat a damage removal spell. But otherwise, I'm not too sure he finds a spot in the decks that are looking for him. Talking of looking for, what he's looking for with his Twilight Bark is this card, a 2-costed inkable 2/3 for 1 Dalmatian Puppy Tail Wagger. You may have up to 99 copies of Dalmatian Puppy Tail Wagger in your deck. There are 5 different arts for this card, but it is all the same card, so we're just going to be taking a look at this one today because these videos are all about evaluating the card mechanically, not artistically. So this is a meme card and I'm absolutely here for it. I love the fact that the game does this kind of stuff. I love the fact that some of the cards are so thematic to the point where they're almost unplayable. Whether or not this is unplayable, I don't know. It's basically a vanilla that allows you to have lots of them, and really until we see other reasons to have lots of cards in your deck, is nothing more than a funny joke to take to locals. 99 copies of this, a copy of Pongo and a copy of Perdita, assuming we see her, and you've got a 101 Dalmatians deck. I'm actually working on a video all about the 101 Dalmatians and how they could be represented in this game, but I'm also very aware that this is not a competitive card. It is great fun, but I don't really have anything else to say about it. And then most recently, we got a couple of Eel Boys, a 3-costed inkable 5/2 for 1 Loring Flotsam Riffraff, a Dreamborn ally with Eerie Pair. Your character's named Jetsam, get +3 to their strength, and a 3-costed inkable 2/2 for 2 lore in Jetsam Riffraff, Dreamborn ally with Ward and Eerie Pair. Your character's named Flotsam gain Ward. This now gives us 16 cards we can run in a deck that care about Flotsams and Jetsams. This is absolutely fantastic. Again, I don't know how competitive this is going to be, but it's definitely more fun to play, I think, than just running 99 vanillas in the puppies. And I'm definitely going to be making sure I have a playset of all of Jetsams and all of Flotsams, because eventually I feel like there might be a fun deck there. Whether or not it's actually playable or not, I don't know. Same reason I'm keeping 4 of every single broom that comes out, because one day I would love to smash all those together for the same reason. As far as whether they're playable or not goes, I feel like Flotsam's ability of giving Jetsam a little bit of strength isn't particularly strong, but Jetsam's ability of giving himself and other Flotsams ward is pretty good. This does mean that the Flotsam from set 1 can now be evasive rush ward, which seems pretty spicy if you have the board state for it. So yeah, definitely want to keep an eye on whether or not they'll do much in the current sort of standard meta of the game. I don't know, but yeah, 100% worth keeping 4 of each of these for the one day that the Jetsam and Flotsam deck explodes. So there we go, kind of raced through those because a lot of these are a little older now. I imagine you've seen them elsewhere perhaps, but if not, again, I always want to try and document every single card, and so far I haven't missed one. I might be a little late sometimes, but every single card reveal has been talked about in one of these videos here, and for that I'm somewhat proud actually. We got a lot of OP news the other day, so make sure you check out my video covering that, and keep an eye out for a video that will probably drop tomorrow now that looks at the Dalmatians within Disney lore and beyond, and how they can fit into the game. Very much looking forward to that one. Until then, thank you so much for watching. Be good.